Happy Thursday morning, YouTube. The week is almost over, and good God, I need this week to be over. Don't even ask. Anyways, the Leafs were at home once more last night to the Edmonton Oilers. Um, and I didn't get to see all of the game because I had a video game session with my buddy at his house, but I did see the first maybe half of the game. And if there's one thing to be said, that over the last few games, the Leafs have gained some sort of weird consistency. It's maybe not the greatest, but it works in the end, I guess. So just like with Buffalo the game before, Montreal the game before that, the Leafs got down early and they got vastly outplayed in the first period. Edmonton went up 1-0 about halfway through the period, and the Leafs at that point were being outshot like 13-2 and just getting run all over the place. And but after that goal, a few shifts after, they started to turn things around. The shot clock on their side started to grow, and Edmonton stopped, and they got back into the game. And with just under a couple minutes left, a broken play in front of the net off a Muzzin point shot was bouncing around a bit, and then Marleau was able to bang it in and tie things up before the period ended. And that's one thing I do like about Muzzin, is that he's good in the D zone. He loves to hit guys. But in the offensive zone, he's not shy about just putting the puck on net and seeing what happens. Because a lot of times that's the best way to get a goal. Instead of looking for that perfect pass and set up and overpassing or whatever, just rip it on net, and hopefully it bounces off a face, an ass, or whatever, and either goes in or lies there for somebody else to bang it in. I like his straightforward approach, because a lot of the Leafs defensemen, because of their high offensive skill levels, are always looking more pass and perfect shot, right? So, but anyways, that worked out. And then in the second period, the Leafs came out flying, as has been their trend in the last couple games, and within a span of 7 minutes, put in 4 goals. It was Marner. Nice to see him get off the schneid in the goal scoring aspect, because he had been quiet lately. So hopefully that'll boost him a bit. Then Johnsson got one, then Nylander, and then Johnsson again. Those last 2 goals of the 4 were both power play goals, which put the Leafs out to a 5-1 lead suddenly. And Edmonton was just like Buffalo and Montreal the games before, like, what the fuck just happened? And Koskinen got pulled from the Oilers' net, and that's the way the period ended, 5-1. And then as the third opened, just 25 seconds in, another power play for the Leafs, and Tavares banged one in. Nice shot too. And that was a 6-1 lead for the Leafs. And that was pretty much the way it ended. The Oilers got one more goal with about 4 minutes left, and the final score was 6-2. But other than that, it was almost a carbon copy of those 2 games that came before it. Got down early, but then came back in a big-time hurry, and just blew the doors off the other team. That's not to say they should get used to doing it that way, because they won't always be able to score goals in bunches if they run into a hot goalie, or they're just off a little bit. They can't bank on this always coming through for them. So I think they'll be. They just need to work on their first periods, because that seems to be their weakest link. They come out ill prepared, and they get down early, and they're always chasing the game rather than playing on even footing or with the lead even. So if they can sort out their starts, they're going to be a-okay. Freddie was great. He weathered the storm in that first period and allowed them to stay in it, and then they took over from there. So the only bad news was, I noticed when the game started, Ozhiganov was in on defense, and Gardner was out, and then learned afterwards that he's apparently week to week with back issues, not day to day, but week to week. So that will be a bit of an issue. And then to make things even worse, Dermott got run from behind and went down into the boards, and was obviously favoring something on his left arm. I don't know if it was shoulder or elbow or whatever. So hopefully it looked a lot worse than it actually is. And he won't miss that much time, because he's become a key member of the D as well. So now they're going to have to bring out Marinson, I think, is who they've brought up. So suddenly they've lost 2 of their top defensive players, and with only a few weeks to go, or I guess not a few weeks, but just over a month to go before the playoffs. So yeah, that's concerning. And even more disappointing was that there was no response from the Leafs on the hit. It wasn't like a body check from behind straight into the boards. It was kind of like the guy did a flyby and just shoved Dermott from behind beside the boards, and he went into them. But either way, it was like he had him from behind the entire time. It's not like Dermott turned or anything like that. He just straight up from behind. I don't even think there was a penalty on the play, to be honest. And there was no response from the Leafs. So that was disappointing. Not only the injury, but the circumstances around it too. So, and that's the one thing I wish they had acquired somehow, is like a policing winger of some sort. They kept talking about Simmons or Furland or something like that, or even like a Lucic from the Oilers. Somebody who's not a liability and can still contribute offensively, but if something like that happens and liberties are taken, they can go beat the shit out of somebody if they have to, right? So, because the Leafs don't have anybody in that regard, and that's kind of their one, that to me is their biggest weakness, and we see that when they play Boston in the playoffs and they get run around physically. That's the one weakness this team has, and I think they're confident they can get around it, but and I hope they can, but if that was the one thing I could address, more so than improving their D, I think their D's fine. Well, not right now because they got the 2 injuries, but when everybody's healthy and who's in is in, I think they're fine. It's more that physical pushback aspect that I would like to see them address first and foremost. But yeah, nothing they can do about it now since the trade deadline's passed, but either way, they have one of the top tier teams in the league, and hopefully these 2 defensive injuries don't last that long, and they can get back to full roster long before the playoffs begin, and get everything continue to roll. So until Sunday morning, I think they don't play till Saturday. I bid you adieu.